Hey guys, what's going on? It's Alex with ZCon, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about something that you've probably seen a lot of if you've been watching any of our recent videos, and that, of course, is a swim jig. Now you can tell I've been using this one a lot, how beat up that head is and how torn up that skirt is. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about why a swim jig is becoming one of my all-time favorite search baits when it comes to grass fishing. Back-to-back casts, finally eaten. Now look at the patterns on that fish.
Perfect guy.
What? It's number 3. You guessed it. Swim jig again. Woo. I learned to fish a swim jig out on the Chesapeake Bay and the Potomac River back home on tidal systems, fishing around grass and stuff. And I'm glad I took that time to learn it, because since I've come down here to Florida, it has helped tremendously and has accounted for a vast majority of the fish we've caught so far in this past month. Now, when it comes to first picking a swim jig, this right here is my favorite. It is just the OG Strike King swim jig. And now this is very controversial, but one of the reasons I like it is because of how thin that hook is. I know most people don't like that. I do. You know, another option, if you want basically the same bait, but you want a thicker, beefier hook, this is also a Strike King. I believe this is just like the KVD Pro model or whatever they call it. It's just it's the same jig, same head, same skirt, everything, just a beefed up hook on there. I really like the head design on these Strike King jigs. They come through the grass, very nice. If I had one complaint, it's what you can see on this. The skirt is pre-rigged in this like plastic collar, and after catching some fish on it, those strands rip off. And since it's like prefabricated in this collar, you can't like spin them around or make them even. You can't add new strands or really anything. So the only issue I have is a skirt. I love it while it's on there, but it breaks off real easy. And you know, eventually, I mean, this swim jig's probably ready to retire. You can see all the paint chipped off the head. That's from fish. I'm not fishing this around rock or anything. I'm fishing this in grass. That's all from bites. So, I mean, this guy's probably on his way out anyway, but I do wish that skirt held up a little more. When it comes to trailers, I am a Strike King Menace guy through and through. This is in their Rage Tail series. I put this on the back of all my swim jigs, all my chatterbaits, anything like that. It's just perfect and has a great action. Now, a little trick I like to do, I don't know if it really matters, but in my head, I think that it makes more sense to rig this swim jig vertically, like that, as opposed to horizontally, like this one is rigged. See how on that trailer, it's flat, and on this one, it's straight up and down? You know, most people would think to rig it like this. That's how the bait is typically rigged, and that's how most people do it. I like to go up and down because in my head, when you think about the way a fish is set up and the way a fish swims, their fin doesn't go up and down like this. It goes side to side like that. So I think this, if you're trying to imitate a bluegill, which I think 99% of the time when you're throwing a swim jig, that's what you're trying to imitate, a bluegill, unless you were throwing, you know, white for a shad or whatever. But especially in this shallow grass situation in Florida, I'm definitely trying to imitate a bluegill with this. And, you know, having that sideways green pumpkin tail like that is, I think, the best way to do it. A couple things I like to keep in mind when I'm fishing a swim jig is keep that tip moving a little bit, whether you want to do the up and down or the side to side. Keep that moving, you know, one, for the action, but two, and what I think is the bigger deal, is, you know, popping it through that grass better. You know, you hook a little small strand of grass and, you know, maybe you don't feel it right away. I mean, your cast is done. But if you're keeping that tip moving, you know, every couple seconds you're giving it a twitch, you're likely to shake that grass off. And that's gonna save your cast and can potentially, you know, get you a fish. The reason I like a swim jig a lot as a search bait when grass fishing is, you know, typically I'm fishing this bait shallow. Typically I'm fishing this bait, you know, towards the surface, moving it pretty fast. And what that does is, a lot of times, even when you don't get the bite, or, you know, you will see that fish following it. You'll see the wake coming after your bait. And, you know, I've had times where you can see that fish waking after your bait, and you can adjust your presentation and, you know, pause it, twitch it a little bit, and that can trigger your strike. That fish waked that swim jig for, I'm not kidding, it had to be like 20 yards. And it just wouldn't eat it. I was stopping it, starting it, burning it. I don't even really know what I did exactly to make it eat. I think I paused it for a second and then he grabbed it. Woo. And even in a case where you're not able to trigger that strike, if you're seeing fish coming up and chasing after it, you know, that's an indication that there's fish in the area. And if they're not committing to your swim jig, you can pick up, you know, a flipping bait, a worm, a Senko, you know, whatever you want to do, and use that as a follow-up, which is why I say it's one of my favorite search baits, because fish very easily reveal themselves when you're throwing a swim jig around. So one tip I will give, and this is something you'll see in some of the clips from this morning, is the hook set on a swim jig is a little weird, because I don't exactly know why this is, but it seems to me, opposed to like a chatterbait or like a spinnerbait, or, you know, something like that, you can't lean into them right away. A lot of times when they hit it, if you whack on them right away, that hook will come right out, whether you're using a small hook, a big hook, whatever it is. I mean, this small hook, the reason why I say I like it is because it kind of minimizes that stuff. It has a better chance of sticking them. It just, you know, it just slides in so much easier when you're throwing really long casts. And when you have these situations where, you know, a lot of times what I like to do is, when you get that swim jig bite, kind of pause for a second, wait for the fish to turn, so the fish grabs it from behind, right, like this. So you go to set that hook, you can pull that hook straight out. There's a chance that could happen. What I like to do is wait for that fish to bite it, and then when the fish turns its head, set the hook that way. Now you have an angle on them, right? And when that bait slides out, boom, hooks right into the side of his mouth. I don't know why that is such a thing with swim jigs, when it seems to not be a huge thing to me with chatterbaits or spinnerbaits or swim baits, you know, anything like that. But it seems to be a huge deal with swim jigs. And like I said, I'll show that clip again from this morning right now, where, you know, you feel that bite, but you kind of gotta give it a second or two to turn with that bait, and then you can really lean into them. So just try to keep that in mind when you're fishing a swim jig, to not get overexcited, you know, almost similar to a frog. Give them a second to hold it, then hammer them home. So yeah, that's basically my deal with swim jigs. Again, I think this is a heavily underutilized bait, and was already becoming, and now certainly after being down here, is definitely my favorite search bait in grass. You know, I think maybe every now and then it wouldn't hurt to put the chatterbait down, give the swim jig a try. I think that subtle action, that more natural presentation, really triggers more bites, and I think it's a technique overlooked by a ton of bass anglers, and it's definitely doing the trick for us down here in Florida. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. I hope I helped you guys out. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. Give us a like and subscribe. And thanks so much for watching, guys. Zcon out. My boxes were freezing up. I could see my breath the whole time.
When, last night?
No, yesterday.
What the heck?
Feels different on this rod, I guess. Oh, jeez, the camera. Well,